Welcome to Canada's Worst Handyman, Season 3. This year on the program, we won't be just naming the country's lousiest home renovator. We'll also be answering the question that gets asked more than any other during non-professional home renovations. Is doing it yourself really worth it?
In our search to find the candidates for Canada's Worst Handyman, we put out a nationwide request for nominees.
This is to wallpaper.
After meeting hundreds of people through the magic of videotape,
Hi, I'm Jim Potter.
we went out and personally met the most atrocious.
Thought the instructions were wrong. Turns out I was wrong.
And it turns out these 5 individuals are the worst handymen in the entire country. Casey is a police officer from Abbotsford. The title of his desk job on the municipal force is Information Officer.
These directions are terrible.
But he can't even follow simple directions.
This is why you can't always follow the instructions step by step, because they get you all messed up.
He was nominated as Canada's Worst Handyman by his wife, Marnie. Then there's Tex from Apple River, Nova Scotia. The house Tex used to rent was so beat up, the landlord gave it to him.
That's how it's done in Apple River.
Tex's wife, Tara, told us about him. The next candidate, Desmond, recently became unemployed. So he plans on renovating practically his entire house.
Please, please fix my husband, Des.
Des's wife, Jenny, is scared for a reason.
I don't really know how to do everything or use all the proper tools.
Charmaine from Thunder Bay is pretty crafty. Too crafty, perhaps.
If my mother's not the worst handy person in Canada, she's the second worst.
Charmaine's frustrated daughter, Tina, made her a candidate. And finally, Joe the Bullet Barbero is so intimidated by handiwork, he flees from it.
Basically, I can lift and lug, but when it comes to measuring, cutting, or putting things together, very brutal at it.
Joe's sister Rita turned him in. The finalists for Canada's Worst Handyman have no idea what they're doing. So, along with the people who nominated them, they're headed for rehab. Over the last 100 years, this mansion in Hamilton has deteriorated into a slummy boarding house. Now, it's where the candidates for Canada's Worst Handyman will be working.
Specifically, they'll be restoring these blown-out rooms into luxurious bed and breakfast units.
To accomplish that feat, the bad handymen will design their spaces.
How is that a side and that a side?
Let's just not get hung up on words. Let's just talk about dark, dark, light, light.
Then delve into the mysterious world of electrical work, plumbing,
Water off, please!
and carpentry. On top of those duties,
The nominees are going to join forces once an episode to turn this rather disturbing central area
into a large, fully modern kitchen.
Ow! That's hot.
To keep things moving, the bad handyman gets daily classroom lessons
1, 2, and 3 represents the speed of the drill.
and hands-on advice from experts.
No, we still have to cut this, remember?
Oh, right.
But their hands almost come off.
Band-Aid, 911.
They ripped the end off my finger.
At the end of this 8-part series, we will know which home reno jobs are worth doing yourself.
So is this job worth doing?
This job here worth doing? Not a chance.
And we'll know which of our 5 nominees is deserving of the most embarrassing building title in the country, Canada's Worst Handyman.
Welcome to the Handyman Rehabilitation Center, everyone. We're going to turn this whole place into a bed and breakfast.
To decide who gets which room, the candidates reveal randomly placed, color-coded hats.
Welcome to rehab.
Yay, rehab! We have the orange room.
Tex is in green, and Joe is in trouble.
Yes, man.
Hey, we can't get in the room.
Can't get in the room, bro.
But the lock is only held on by 3 small screws.
Whoa.
Specifically, they're square-headed Robertson screws, which Charmaine is now stripping with a Phillips head screwdriver.
Look at that. That's a diamond.
You're talking about the square guy.
Desmond is in.
There's a hole in the floor.
Casey is in.
What the hell are we gonna do in here?
But Joe just can't outsmart the system.
Good in this way.
Inside each room is this instruction sheet. We want Canada's worst handymen to each build a simple stud wall, 8 feet high, 32 inches wide.
Okay.
This wall will frame their future closet.
This is like a puzzle, and I'm terrible at puzzles.
To do their work in rehab, the handymen each have a brand new box of manual tools and a kit of shiny new power tools.
Oh, geez.
What the hell's going on?
Before using his new circular saw, Casey doesn't bother reading the instruction pamphlet.
I don't get that.
The instructions say the blade may need frequent tightening. Casey's blade is so loose,
Whoa.
it's threatening to become a discus. Casey gives up, but his wife finds the problem
Oh, it's loose.
and the solution.
Oh, there's an key, though.
This is nothing new. If Marnie didn't help her husband,
Oh! Nice!
life in their Abbotsford home wouldn't be as fulfilling.
Couldn't get in the hole.
It is so frustrating being married to somebody who is so not handy because I can't count on him to do anything.
I find it offensive that you think I'm such a terrible handyman.
You find it offensive?
I do. You know, this is silly. These directions are terrible.
I think Casey is absolutely the worst handyman.
And Marnie wants everyone to know it.
Daddy sucks, doesn't he?
Even her daughter.
Daddy's a terrible handyman. He can't fix anything, can he?
I have a long list of things that I want to do in life, and building a house from the ground up is one of them. Oh, no.
The fact that he has this dream to build a house from the ground up, from scratch, scares the crap out of me.
I have the odd limitation when it comes to hammering things, cutting things, but
Drilling things,
at the end of it, I
building
ensure that it's done
things.
correctly.
Casey's cable rerouting is not done correctly. His fence is not done correctly. And back at the rehabilitation center, his stud wall is not being done correctly.
And you want to build a house from the ground up, eh?
I'm learning, Andrew.
Hopefully, he'll learn to swing the hammer instead of using it to just politely tap.
Okay.
Let's count how many times Desmond pulls the trigger on the drill.
While Charmaine still struggles with her lock,
Here, Mom, I'm a Leo. I know what I'm doing.
Do it, please.
everyone else is measuring 8-foot studs.
So that's 8 feet there.
In inches, 8 feet is
96.
what the builders aren't considering is that the 8 feet
8 and 8.
must include this top plate and this bottom plate.
No.
What?
We f***ed up already.
How?
Because it's 8 feet long, and we've got 8 feet plus 2 inches.
Tex is used to making mistakes. That's why he's here.
My name's Tex, and my wife Tara thinks I'm Canada's worst handyman.
Tex and Tara's home in Nova Scotia has 2 stories, 3 animals, and countless unfinished projects.
And as you can tell, there's a little bit of breeze coming up through there. And I just took this fancy smancy tile that you see here, and we just set that down on there like that, and put that back like that, and unbeknownst to anybody else, nobody knows it's there.
Texas handyman motto is definitely get her done.
Get her done.
However, Tex never gets anything really done. By that I mean, he never finishes.
This is our bedroom. This is the most completed room that I have done.
When Tex says this is the most completed room, he's including the bathroom.
Installed the awesome shower. I ran out of gyprock. Gyprock's really not the stuff to have in your shower.
When it comes to trying new handiwork,
I have electrocuted myself a few times.
Tex is fearless.
My first stab at the electrical handyman work was this gizmo box here. I wired this into here. I wouldn't want to touch those. Those are pretty live.
We just got accident insurance on them, actually, so.
There was a wall in my living room I took out because I thought it would circulate the heat better, and I didn't know that it was a load-bearing wall. And after a few days of the ceiling starting to sag, I incorporated this nice piece of hardwood I found out back.
The day we met Tex, he was changing a light for Tara.
When you can't find the right tools, you go with what you know. There, it's off. You know what just happened there? The wire just fell down inside the wall. Ain't that just great?
Tex doesn't own wire strippers. He is wire strippers.
Don't do that, Tex. We don't have dental.
After 47 minutes of trying to create light, Tex grows dark.
Why'd you say you wanted this changed again, Tara?
Actually, I don't quite remember saying I wanted it changed.
Yeah, well, I remember somebody saying, oh, I'd like to have my new light put up.
Yeah, that wasn't me.
I'm losing it here. I don't know anymore. Honestly don't know. There goes my rat down the wall. What a pain in the ass this turned out to be.
When we come back to the Handyman Rehabilitation Center, Charmaine finally gets to work on her stud wall.
I so love this tool.
This year on Canada's Worst Handyman, the lousiest amateur builders in the entire country are turning this dilapidated old house into a brand new bed and breakfast.
Oh, we have a bathroom. Yes, a blue bathroom.
Actually, that's Charmaine's bedroom.
Build this.
The other nominees are already building their 8-foot-tall closet walls.
How are you cutting without measuring tape?
Magic.
After magically cutting, Tex has gaps big enough to pull rabbits out of. For his next trick, Tex is filling the gaps with some sort of stuff.
Packed it full of that stuff and then put it back together.
Packed it full of that stuff.
Yeah.
Means what?
The sawdust and glue.
Sawdust and glue.
Yeah, Tara's putty, yeah.
Fine. Tara's Putty, available at a fine hardware store near you. Look for Tara's Putty. It's a mixture of sawdust and glue.
Building stud walls is classified as rough carpentry. And believe it or not, Tex has passed. Desmond knows that in inches, 8 feet is
96.
96. So why is your thing 99 inches long?
No way.
Right?
No way.
Jenny should be used to this. Back in Woodstock, Ontario, Desmond spends more time grinning like a car salesman than he does finishing projects.
I've been working on the house for about 3.5, 4 years, and nothing has been completed. I'm getting pretty close to giving up.
Des has not finished the sanding of the kitchen cupboards, the trim work throughout the house, baseboards in the basement, ceiling tiles in the basement.
I'm totally lost. I give up. As you can see, I've made 10 different markings, and I still don't know what I'm doing. Yeah.
Dez's work is painful.
Definitely don't know.
Actually painful.
Ow. I was changing an outlet downstairs, and when I reconnected a new wire, poof of smoke, little blue light, very big shock.
Big scream.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened, because I had all the power turned off.
And then it happened again.
Then it happened again.
Desmond's carpet removal job 4 years ago proves he isn't the sharpest tack in the house.
So we're left with all these little tack strips all over the place with little tacks on the end of them, which are very sharp, and we have little kids running around. Pretty lazy.
Just as sharp is Dez's temper.
But if you try and go under it instead of the side of it, then you don't have such a mess.
You want to get down here and do it?
Not really.
Well, shut up.
You don't get anything done. Nothing.
At the rehab center, Desmond is done his closet wall incorrectly.
That's too big.
That's too big. That's a big. Des is first to fail. Meanwhile, the slowest person in rehab isn't getting any swifter.
I so love this tool.
Charmaine is mistakenly calculating for an 80-inch wall instead of an 8-foot wall.
1.5 3. Take off 80. 77. These boards have to be 77 inches long. 3 boards 77 inches long.
Are they?
No.
Okay, what happened?
I cut wrong, obviously.
At home in Thunder Bay, Charmaine has a family legacy to uphold.
My father was a carpenter, and there's part of him in me. And I love the smell of sawdust, and I love getting in there like a dirty shirt. Okay, this is about the time that I would probably throw this.
Charmaine often throws in the towel.
Tiles, no grout. Yet.
Charmaine's tool collection is
a disorganized mess. Oh, no, to the untrained eye, it's disorganized. Okay, so we cannot find the screwdriver, the classic butter knife, bent already, so I don't even have that bend it. I am using the hammer as a measuring tool. I occasionally use a tape measure.
Never seen a tape measure in my life.
What am I going to do when a project doesn't work out in rehab? That's not going to happen because it's going to work. Every project is going to work out for me.
At the rehab center, it's not working out for Charmaine.
8 feet long, you got to take 6 inches off because each of these are 3 inches. I mean, 1.5. You got to take.
To make 3 studs, Joe has already cut 5 pieces of wood.
Oh.
It's way shorter.
Don't tell me we're going to have to change all 3 of them.
Joe says he's done.
8 feet is 96
Yeah.
inches. That's right there. This thing is 99 inches.
Joey the Bullet Barbaro is a total rookie.
Joey the Bullet can't saw, can't hammer, can't put up a picture, drywall, frame, measure.
He can't even build his daughters a toy dollhouse.
Why didn't you put those on?
I couldn't figure out how to do it, sweetie.
How come?
Because Daddy doesn't do too much of that stuff.
Joe is no stranger to the building world, just the thinking world.
On the construction site, they used to call me the human forklift, but just like I said, as far as the technical part, dummy.
Joe's hot water has been leaking for months.
My buddy said all it needs is a washer and a screw, and I still haven't figured out how to do it.
Joe's door doesn't latch. And the railing to Joe's basement is broken. So he's trying to fix it with a hammer.
Good enough. I don't just want to be the muscle anymore. I want to be the brains behind the operations, too.
While Joe gets himself straightened out, Casey learns he's exactly 1 inch short.
Well, if it's supposed to be 96, then I failed. So.
Casey's goal at rehab is to be second worst.
If I can beat 1,
And my wife will have to eat her words for the rest of our lives.
The last person working
The day of reckoning is here.
realizes she'd be happier if she gave up.
Big F right here, fail. Festival of failure right now.
Charmaine is failing because she has trouble
reading the instructions and computing it and measuring it properly. 80 inches is not 8 feet. You know?
Concentrate. Focus power. Casey will be back after he breaks this board.
Kind of hot, though.
Do you get to keep it?
The nominees for the title Canada's Worst Handyman have all come to rehab with different perspectives on the world. To see how they operate in their own element, we asked each of them to design and build a project before leaving home.
All right. Turn the plywood into a 3-dimensional object. It must support your weight.
This object must support your... Oh, come on.
3-dimensional.
A box, but it has to be a raised box.
Yeah, I think I can do that.
It can't be done.
Our experts can do it. This year, our head builder is general contractor Jeff Woodmansey.
Oh, man. Piece of
And our master of aesthetics is designer Joe Alcorn.
That's scary. I don't want to come into a bed and breakfast and walk in and see that, let alone be lying in bed and staring at that.
From their room, Jeff and Joe keep an eye on the bad handyman.
It only takes a couple of taps to set the nail, and then you want to move your hand back and drive it home.
At the end of each show, they'll help me decide who is the worst.
So you're saying Joe's the worst, are you?
Yeah, he is the worst.
You agree?
Worst is best, in my opinion, on these particular challenges.
On top of that, they're also doing every challenge the bad handymen do.
40 centimeters high, 3-dimensional,
Okay.
that we can stand on.
How about we do like a step ladder?
To make a plywood step, Joe sketches a versatile ladder.
Let's cover the front
Yeah.
so it makes it prettier and it also helps with support too, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Jeff begins by measuring and marking truly straight lines, then cutting carefully and assembling the piece with wood screws. Jeff has done the challenge in 27 minutes. Casey doesn't know what he's doing.
I should just start cutting stuff and hope for the best.
Casey's best
We got a power saw or something?
is the reason he's been nominated as the worst handyman in the country. Casey doesn't own a ruler or a workbench, so he's slicing on beer coolers.
Oh!
What?
You just went through the hinge.
Casey's not the only one going through something.
What are you doing? Why is there smoke?
Is it cutting the table? Probably.
Oh, you did.
Unbelievable.
I believe Desmond's table surgery is the worst.
Oh, you...
What?
I cut the bench.
Oh my God, see? Oh my God.
That totally can't. Where's this piece then?
To support their weight, everyone has chosen to make a simple box.
Woo!
Everyone except Casey.
Well, I was thinking like a teepee. Like,
Casey wants to make 4 teepees, then lay a platform on top of them.
good enough, 4 of those.
To hold his box together, Desmond is using weak finishing nails.
Yes, shut up.
Charmaine is using copper wire.
It doesn't have to be perfect.
And Joe is using wood screws. But
You're gonna hammer in a screw?
I guess so.
Joe's idea of screwing is truly twisted.
Why don't you try to use the screwdriver?
He didn't even hold it straight, man.
What none of the bad handymen are realizing is that to have maximum strength, a box needs 6 sides.
It's a little wobbly, but I think it'll hold.
There.
Get on that baby.
So obviously I should have maybe used screws.
When it comes to building something that can support their weight, 4 of the Canada's Worst Handyman nominees are failures.
Oh, I love the smell of sawdust.
The only person who passes this challenge is Tex. Tex is not pretty, but he is effective.
Yeah! We're on her now, boys.
With his honor at stake, Casey redesigns his contraption and tries the test again.
I think it's good.
Do we get to keep it?
After the break, Casey sees the light.
Hello.
But he still doesn't get it.
Hey!
Before Canada's Worst Handymen can begin any of their major building challenges, like building a table,
I'm a little in over my head, I think, here.
they have to map out their final space. That means envisioning the room, like where the closet goes.
It has to be able to hold clothing. We're gonna use up a whole wall.
And where the shower goes.
The plumbing for the sink is already there. So the plumbing for the sink can be used for the plumbing for the shower.
When the planning is done, it's time for the handymen to start implementing their designs.
One thing that all of the bad handymen had to design into their room was one of these, a sunken wall safe. If they're able to install it correctly, it can be hidden behind a picture. I'm using a picture of a sunken wall safe.
To make sure the nominees for Canada's Worst Handyman have a fighting chance,
come on in, come on in, come on in, come on.
Our head builder, Jeff, will show them how to install the safe.
It's 14 inches, right?
The standard distance between wall studs is 14.5 inches. So Jeff begins this job by locating one stud.
Just so you know, I'm not pounding it right in.
Then he cuts a measured hole to the neighboring stud.
That's pretty slick.
But Jeff has a problem. The space between his studs is only 14 inches instead of the 14.5 he was expecting.
So it's gonna squeeze my box here.
And here, and everywhere there's a screw head sticking out.
If I pound it in, I wreck my wall.
To allow room for the screws, Jeff uses his drill to cut slots.
There we go.
Good job.
With the safe screwed permanently in place,
I think we're done, Andrew.
Jeff is done in 17 minutes.
1 hour to put your wall safe in, everybody. Off you go.
Stud finders weren't part of the lesson, but Casey's using his.
Well, what's going on there?
Charmaine is using hers.
What's the verdict, Mom?
I don't know.
And Joe may as well be using a Geiger counter.
There's 3 over here, man. It beeped 3 times. Okay, hang on a second. Oh, there's 1. Let's just draw the dimensions out before I smash this wall.
Which brings us to Tex. Tex's stud detection method is primitive.
Stud there.
But it does have 100% accuracy.
Stud there.
After just half an hour, Tex is screwing his safe in place.
That went into absolutely nothing.
While Dez is fighting with his saw and his wife.
Oh my God, it's not a machine gun.
Yes, but how else do you think get it in there?
Well, can't you just stick it on the wall and then start?
You want to try it?
I'm just saying.
Shut your hole.
Oh my God.
And Casey's still playing with his stud finder.
This doesn't make any sense.
Enough stroking. Casey's frustrated wife wants real action.
Use the hammer.
What?
Oh my God.
Is there anything there?
Hello. Obviously, Casey hasn't picked a safe spot.
Hello.
But he still doesn't clue in.
Okay, I can see you. Okay, this is not gonna be good. Casey.
Hello.
We're gonna have a big problem.
Uh-oh. Kidding me.
And with that, it's back to the stud finder for Casey.
There's something there.
What's there is Desmond's head.
That's a stud, right?
He's really starting to piss me off.
Hey! Joe has made half a hole, but he's abandoned it.
This has been brutal, man.
And is now hunting for more beeping studs.
It's beeping all the time, man.
There you go. Now use it.
Joe finally learns how to find a stud.
Oh, there's a stud there.
Excited, he cuts a hole that's too short. And
it's not wide enough either to go.
Tex's hole is too big.
If I had 5-10 more minutes in molding, buddy, she'd look pretty fancy.
Tex couldn't make a diamond look fancy.
Get her done.
You think it'll just work with a hammer?
I don't know, or you could...
What are we using, a rubber mallet?
Casey uses the correct hardware.
Okay, screws.
And finishes with a safe. And a view of next door.
I came here to prove myself that I'm not the worst handyman.
Desmond usually walks away from projects before they're complete.
Finishing up the last of the screws.
Last screw, and done.
Today, he finishes. But he still walks away.
I'm pretty confident to do a wall safe on my own now, so I think it was well worth it.
Joe the Bullet Barbero also finishes, but he never uses any screws.
It's done, man. It's in the wall good and tight, man. You can't even take it out with a crowbar.
It's a finesse job. And Joe the Bullet used a mallet.
It's nice. That's a special Italian secret.
Charmaine's secret is that she's in tears.
You're doing an amazing job.
Actually, Charmaine's doing a terrible job, but she has come to the right place. Next on the job list, Demolition.
Canada's worst handyman. Back after the break.
Every episode of Canada's Worst Handyman, the nominees will work together, turning this bathroom and the entire area around it into a communal kitchen. To save money, we're letting them do the demolition work themselves.
But is that money you really want to save? Because, you know, the work in here is dangerous. There's live running water, and even scarier, there's live electricity. Do you really want to play with that?
To make sure the handymen don't hurt themselves,
The black is your hot wire.
our head builder, Jeff, is teaching them how to stop the flow of electricity
We got to make sure the electricity's shut off.
using caps called morettes,
I use the smaller ones because they tend to bite better.
and how to stop water by capping copper pipes. First, spin a pipe cutter to sever the line. Then sand the pipe and the cap. Apply a chemical called flux. Then prepare your
solder. That's what's going to make the connection.
Put on the cap, apply direct heat, and dab on the solder.
It's amazing. You can actually watch it. As you wipe it, you'll draw the solder off of it.
Canada's Worst Handymen believe their next project will be pure plumbing. When they make it downstairs to see me, they'll be in for a shock. By the way, there's a live feed of all the action in our holding pen so the people who nominated Canada's Worst Handymen can watch.
Today's group challenge, total demolition of this space.
Wow, demo.
Oh, no team.
The team starts by letting Tex cut the water main.
It's city water, man. I don't know.
And cut the power.
No light.
No light.
This could be a fairly surgical procedure, but...
Where do you want to start beating, boys? Where's Joe?
Joe is in heaven. He starts by assaulting a sink. Then he victimizes the toilet.
See, look at it.
And then the bullet relaxes by bashing down some walls.
Get her done! Oh, sorry, guys.
You're doing like the work of 5 guys.
This is insane.
This is really dangerous.
Our expert, Jeff, has seen enough.
Joe! You're gonna kill someone.
Wait.
Stop, man. You know what? This stuff comes apart. It's assembled with screws. This stuff's like razors. Like right now, you're walking into a bee's nest. One of these things in your face, Joe, and it's gonna change your appearance for the rest of your life.
With the lecture over, the humble screwdriver makes its first appearance.
There you go. So is this better organized now?
Yes, and the safety issue, too, is huge.
Safety issue is huge. It's absolutely huge.
And safety is being hugely ignored.
So here's a little note if you're a home handy worker yourself. Using a sledgehammer on a floor is a really bad idea because you could go right through it. What he's doing would completely ruin the floor. Or the ceiling, depends on which level of the house you live in.
They're gonna wreck the floor underneath. You can feel it. I'm standing there. You can feel it go in.
Joe, he is not a thinker.
Hold! There was flying out everywhere. Last time. Unreal.
To preserve the floor, Joe starts abusing the wall attached to Tex's room.
All right.
While Joe hits the dumpster, Casey tries the sledgehammer.
Oh, no.
Thanks a lot, brother.
Casey didn't realize that with the tiles gone, he was thumping Tex's wall.
I hit it twice.
Well, I think we can fix it. I think it can be fixed.
Oh, it can be fixed. But can it be fixed by Tex? Right now, Tex is finishing up the plumbing. To see if his work will hold, he needs someone to go to the basement for him and turn the water on. But no one will go.
Contact!
When Tex surfaces, he discovers a leak.
Whoa. We got a problem?
So he goes to the basement again.
I'm still letting pressure off down here.
Then he goes upstairs again to release more pressure.
Whoa.
Oh, my God.
Dandy, thank you. Now,
I don't think we wanted that, did we?
Where's the bucket? Give me another
Great.
bucket. Make it quick. Double time. More buckets, boys. More buckets. I'll get her done.
When Tex does get done, he heads to the basement again.
The water is on. Is it leaking?
What?
Is it leaking?
No!
Thank you.
If the electrical also works, this challenge is over.
Shut this one off.
Yay!
Do we got power in both rooms?
Job done. Well done.
Right on. Give me some love.
Do we have power in both rooms?
All right.
Do we have power in both rooms? Okay, for the last time,
this.
After the break, we'll name the worst handyman for this episode.
I'll give people a run for their money, but no, I'm not the worst.
The nominees for Canada's worst handyman are in their future bed and breakfast rooms, waiting for this episode's final inspection.
Calling this room the chocolate vanilla room.
Oh.
Now, dark this side, light this side. We split the room down the middle, diagonally.
Diagonally?
Our designer, Joe, is concerned.
He doesn't have a place for the dining table. He doesn't have his sconce laid out yet. Do you know what style of curtains you're gonna get?
No.
Casey failed on his stud wall, and Jeff finds flaws in his safe.
It's an incomplete project.
How was your performance in this episode?
Weak.
Des was also weak. His stud wall failed.
That's too big.
That's too big. His box was a bust. And his room design confuses even him.
Yes, but I believe now I'm gonna do it all.
Joe the Bullet's room design calls for blood red walls.
This is no mercy, baby. I haven't relaxed in years. High stress levels seem to follow me everywhere I go, but relaxing.
Joe abandoned his first wall safe plan.
It's now a major repair.
But he did use
brute force, man,
to get his safe in. And he also went back and redid his stud wall.
96, bang on, buddy. There you go. Perfect.
In Tex's room, Jeff barely makes it through the door.
And this could bring tears to a glass eye. That's $750 worth of tools lying around, and I bet you there's stuff missing.
What's missing from Charmaine's room is a completed project.
Your safe didn't get done. Your stud wall didn't get done. It was a disaster.
So, this is the part of the process where we choose the most improved handyman for this episode and the worst handyman for this episode. So let's just throw it right out there. Most improved, who do you got, Jeff?
I got Joe.
You got Joe?
I got Joe, yeah.
Give me a break.
The guy showed a lot of heart, and he's worked really hard for it today.
Do you see him as the most improved?
No.
Who did you see as the most improved?
I think Tex.
Yeah?
I think he did better here than he does in his own house.
Worst handyman for this episode is?
I think I'm gonna have to say Casey.
Casey did damage to his own room.
Hello.
To his neighbor's room.
Okay, this is not gonna be good.
And to Tex's room. But Jeff isn't buying the Casey argument.
Worst handyman?
Charmaine. Hands down. No stud wall, no safe, poor design.
Could find a big palm tree, phony palm tree.
Palm tree.
Palm tree.
I'm convinced. I know who the worst is. I know who the most improved is.
7 episodes from now, we will name Canada's worst handyman.
But before we do that, let's talk about who is the most improved handyman for this episode.
The most improved person will be honored
by this gold helmet.
Golden helmet!
Whoever gets it will lead the next group challenge.
Shockingly, in this our first episode, the most improved handyman amongst you is Joe the Bullet.
Good job, Joe.
Congratulations. When you show up knowing nothing, it's easy to become the most improved.
The worst handyman for this episode is
the person who not only knocked a hole in his own wall, but knocked a hole right through the kitchen wall. Casey, does this person look familiar to you?
Just a little.
Come up here, sir, and hang your head in shame.
Casey is humiliated, but I bet he'll be even more embarrassed when the cops back in Abbotsford learn that he is episode 1's worst handyman.
I'm sorry. Follow me, sir. We got one final lesson for you.
During demolition, the team completely filled this working toilet drain with debris.
And that's something that you have to deal with before I can let you leave.
You're kidding. This sucks. I don't even know what this is. It could be crap. I don't even know what's this. I don't even know what my hands are in right now. I have no idea. I don't know if this is glue or crap. And I won't be doing this again, that's for sure. Marnie replaced our last toilet.
A On the next episode of Canada's Worst Handyman, the nominees all make workbenches.
What the heck is that? That's the drill bit.
They all get plastered.
What the? I quit.
And in the group challenge, Des and Joe build boundaries.
Yeah, you too.
Shove his gold helmet up his ass.